Hey folks, thank you for joining me today. I'm going to give you a look in this video of something I don't think I've ever shown, and that is one of the final steps that goes into my recipe development. As a matter of fact, this is the final testing step of the recipe I've chosen, and the next step after this, if all goes well, is the first production run of this sauce. So stay with me, and let's show you a little bit about recipe development. Hey folks, this is Phil from Alabama Hot Sauce. That's alabamahotsauce.com on the web. Today I've got something that I think is going to interest you. I'm sitting in my little test kitchen, and we're going to do the final step in recipe development. This is the step where I take the recipes that I have tested for this sauce. I've chosen one in particular that I like. I'm making it one last time for a last taste test. And if all goes well, this sauce will move on to a production run, and it'll become a sauce that you can buy in my face-to-face sales events or on my website. So what we've got here is I've got the ingredients from the test I chose, the recipe I chose. If I remember correctly, I did 7 or 8 different variations of this recipe, changing things around a little bit. I tested them each time as I was doing it. I then set them aside and tested them consecutively, and someone else helped me test. And so we arrived at what we think is the recipe we want. However, I'm going to make that recipe again in a very, very small batch. We're only talking about 14 or 15 ounces here. And I'm going to do one final taste test, one final set of physical tests that I will do off camera. I won't bore you with those. And if that goes well, sometime next week I'll make the first production batch of this sauce. Now, I'm going to tell you, because I can't hide it, that first, one of the ingredients is honey. Another ingredient is white wine vinegar. Now in this container, I have pepper and a variety of other spices. I'm not going to tell you much about this because, let's face it, we got to keep some things a secret. So I'm going to begin by pouring my ingredients into the old Vitamix here. Now, I got to tell you, honey's a tough one, because as you know, it doesn't pour very good. I heated this honey up slightly by putting it in a little water bath, but not much. But it's made it run a little bit. I will tell you, when I'm doing these little batches of honey, I overshoot the recipe amount by 4 or 5% because there's some portion of it that's just not going to come out of this container unless I have the patience to sit here forever, and I don't. Now next I'm going to try to help some of this stuff out by pouring my vinegar in there and get some of it out. And I'll pour the rest of the vinegar in the container. Now, before I get going, I'm going to turn on the blender and mix these two together a little bit. And now I'm going to pour in my spices and peppers. Okay. Now, there's all kinds of ingredients in here of different particle sizes. The final sauce has to be, obviously, somewhat near the same particle sizes. Otherwise, it would separate, it would split. I don't like that. A lot of people say it's okay, but as you know from watching my videos, I don't like it. So I'm going to do a little blending here. Now, this sauce is a beautiful color. But as you will notice, when we start blending, the color gets lighter. That applies, by the way, to every sauce. Remember, color is nothing more than how the sauce reflects light. When you're blending, you're putting a ton of air in the sauce, so it's going to reflect the light a little differently. I'll show you at the end what we have to do about that if you are a smart hot sauce producer to get rid of that air before you buy it. Hey, you see it really burns by all over. You were yellow. One of the things I'm looking for is to make sure it slides down the blender walls instead of forming clumps, because the formed clumps, you'll get that in your sauce and you won't like it. So I want my sauce to flow pretty smoothly, to be exactly the right texture, exactly the right taste. Now, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a tremendous amount of air in this sauce, and that can't stay there. And I'll tell you in just a minute what I do about it. But first, I'm just dying to take a taste. Now, I got to tell you, the consistency of this sauce is exactly what I wanted. So let's see how it tastes. Oh, man. This is wonderful. The texture's great. I can't judge the way it feels on my tongue, what we call the mouthfeel quite yet, because it's so loaded up with air. But I will do something about that, and I'll show you. I'm going to blend it just another minute or two, and then we'll take it to another little mini process that I have on my little test table. Get it, son. Yellow, but start putting that air in it. All right. Now, when you make hot sauce, there's always going to be a tremendous amount of air embedded in the sauce after it's blended and homogenized. I don't know, you notice it as a consumer. Let me say it this way. You notice it as a consumer in two ways. First, too much air embedded in the hot sauce when it's bottled will cause oxidation, and the sauce will change colors fairly rapidly. Secondly, if the air stays in the sauce, which it can if you buy a bottle, within a month or two after it's bottled, you'll get a strange, fluffy taste on your tongue, and you may like that, but I don't think that's the way sauce is supposed to taste. But the biggest thing is, if you fill a bottle of sauce when it's already hot, remember we fill it at 195 degrees, we fill it to the very top of the Woozy bottle I'm talking about, right to the very top. As it cools, it's going to shrink a little bit. If it's got a lot of air in the sauce, it's going to shrink even more. And I know some of you have bought sauces where the fill level was way down here on the hip of the sauce bottle. Matter of fact, when you put a little shrink wrap for security protection on it, I don't think the fill should be much of any lower than the bottom of the shrink wrap. What causes that is air. Remember, if you fill that air in infused sauce in the bottle, as it cools and as that air comes to the top and gets in the headspace, the volume of sauce goes down. Now, what I do in the production environment is I use a vacuum pump and a cover, an airtight cover that will cover the top of my double boilers. And I put that sauce, prior to pasteurizing it, under a 30-inch vacuum. And that vacuum draws that air out of the sauce. Now, it's hard for me to do that with this small amount of sauce, but I got a little miniature way to do almost the same thing. I can't put quite as much vacuum on it. So now I'm going to pour this beautiful sauce in this jar. Well, then I'm going to screw this vacuum top on it. This top has a one-way valve. It's nothing but a fermentation valve. And you can see all those air bubbles in that sauce. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this little hand pump to such a small container. And I'm going to pump the air out of this container, creating a vacuum in the airspace. This vacuum I created in this airspace is going to try to lift up this hot sauce but it can't get the salt. But what it can do, it can get that air that's embedded in there. Now we start to see bubbles form on the top. The air is coming out of that sauce. Now I gotta tell you, this is not nearly as well vacuumed or well degassed as my production setup, because my production setup is designed to take all the air out. This little hand pump probably can't get even close to the amount of vacuum. I know it can't, matter of fact, that I need to get all the air out. I think but I can get enough of it out that I can begin to sense the mouthfeel of the sauce, okay? So we'll just let it sit here for just a moment. We can see the air bubbles coming out. They're coming out real slow because they don't want to come out of there. In the ingredients that was in the container that had the pepper, I had a lot of other things, including something to make this sauce want to emulsify. So those little air bubbles, subjected to the chemicals that were put in there, or it's not a chemical really, there's a fermented product that's put in there. They want to stay with the molecules they're attached to. They're attached to molecules of pepper, molecules of spices, molecules of vinegar. They want to stay there. They don't want to come out. But they can't resist this vacuum. Now, open this up and release the vacuum. And instantly, you see at the top of the sauce looks smooth and slick. So, let me go in here now and see how it feels on my mouth. That sauce is delicious. It feels wonderful on my tongue. I can't wait to sense what it's going to feel like in my real production vacuum process, where I take 100% of the air out, because it's going to feel very slick, very flat, and it's going to be just a wonderful sauce. It's got a fairly decent degree of heat. It's got a wonderful pepper taste. You can taste the honey, but it's sort of in the background. You can taste the vinegar, but it's sort of in the background. The thing that's in the foreground is the pepper and the taste of the pepper, and that's exactly what we want. Well, folks, thank you for joining me, taking a look at this little piece of the recipe development process. Maybe one day I'll make a long-form video, and over the course of 3 or 4 months, as I go completely through a recipe, I'll start you at the point where I'm actually thinking it up, writing it down, and making the first batches, and we'll go through the whole thing. But anyway, this shows you what I do in this recipe development process right before I'm ready to go in production. Folks, I want to thank you for joining me. I appreciate it a lot. If you like this video, or if you have any questions about this video, or you have any ideas about videos I ought to produce, leave that in the comments. While you're here, I would appreciate it if you subscribe to my channel. A growing number of subscribers convince YouTube to send my videos out to more people when they search. More people get exposed to Alabama hot sauce. It helps my YouTube channel, which I take great pride in. In addition to that, it helps me sell a bottle of sauce. Now, in addition, while you're here, give me a thumbs up if you like this content. Or matter of fact, give me a thumbs down if you don't. And ring that bell so YouTube will know to notify you as a loyal subscriber every time I produce a new video. Folks, once again, I want to thank you for joining me and watching this video, and I'll see you next time. Hey folks, this is Phil from Alabama Hot Sauce. Thank you for joining me. I'd appreciate it if you push the little logo button and join my channel. In addition, I've made some suggestions for videos you might like, and you'll see the links to those on the screen. Press them, take a look, and once again, thank you for joining me.